Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Thursday, October 16th, 2025, and net zero is set to increase prices in the UK by 20%. Or no, they're supposed to double even if the wholesale price is half. Even if the wholesale prices are okay, the energy prices are still set to double. There's huge problems. And somebody sent to me before the show, and I don't have it included, but a whole write-up about the scheme of AI, and their whole model is screwed because of the rapid pace of innovation and how fast technology becomes outdated and useless. So if you invest in a data center now, you won't make the money back on that data center before it's already outdated. And so their whole model is screwed. It's really, really quite interesting. It's interesting though. Net zero, same thing's happening in Canada. They're trying to implement these net zero technologies, and people are saying, who are in planning and all of these other infrastructure, all of this, they're saying there's problems with this. We can't meet these guidelines. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, people are going to have brownouts and blackouts. People are going to be upset, and they want to do it anyway. And that's the part we're missing. They don't care, right? They don't give a shit how bad this is all going to turn out. And so we are on this path, and it doesn't matter that the whole climate change thing is not backed up by data, right? They have all the data they need, and they're moving forward with this. So it is going to be an interesting battle, but I think that it is going to be a battle. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope they just turn over and go, oh man, we didn't realize you didn't want to do that. Okay, let's build pipelines and stuff. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely. Do we have $1 billion? They're spending $1 billion in Ontario on DEI initiatives in schools, just in schools. And I think this is improper. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at that early in the show today. Tamara Litch has a probation officer, free speech and crime, and all sorts of crazy stuff going on in Canada. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to start with Newfoundland. And Newfoundland just elected a Conservative premier. And I listened to the Conservative premier's acceptance speech, and it's ABC stuff. He doesn't drop any indication that he might be a left-wing plant or anything like that, like Doug Ford is in Ontario. So I don't know what's going on here, but there are people, the People's Party of Canada is sharing Max, and Max is saying that the PC platform for 2025 from the Newfoundland PC Conservatives has a part in it that says they will inform decisions with gender-based plus analysis. He says that it says we will develop a robust policy analysis tool which we will make publicly available. Now, okay, People's Party of Canada says another uniparty win under the quote conservative banner in Newfoundland. Blue or red, it's always the same. Controlled opposition pretending to offer choice. So I watched this just to see what his criticism is, because his tweet was pathetic fake conservatives won in Newfoundland and Labrador. But I hadn't heard anything like that. And I mean, to be fair, I hadn't heard much. I didn't even realize there was an election that the Conservatives were set to win until they won. So more fool me. I didn't hear anything about it. So apologies about that. But he says, I read their platform and this is what it says. So I thought I'll go read the platform and confirm that it says what it says. And it doesn't say that. I control F for gender. And when I control F for gender, the first mention is on page 15. And the first mention of gender is talking about gender-based violence, and it's putting you first, equity, safety, and belonging. Okay, it does use equity there. I didn't see that before. But the gender plus policy framework, I don't see that at all. It's not there. To work to reduce gender-based violence and family violence, it says to... Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh, I missed it. I was saying it wasn't there, but I missed it. It was the second one. Informed decisions with gender-based plus analysis. Boo, boo. We will develop a robust policy analysis tool, which will be made publicly available. So yeah, they are. So I like to confirm. And then they talk about gender down here too. Require local community benefit agreements for all natural resource projects and public infrastructure contracts valued over $500,000. This will ensure the principal beneficiary of our resources will always be the people of our province. This will prioritize hiring of local skilled trade workers, awarding of contracts to local companies, and opportunity for apprentices and underrepresented groups such as women, gender diverse individuals, and Indigenous workers. Right? So Yikes. Yeah, maybe they're right. So apologies, I got it wrong. Max got it right. He saw this where I thought it was a headline. It looked like it was supposed to be a headline, so I was looking for a headline, but it was kind of buried there. It was the second one. So crazy town. But yeah, people who are, why do they need progressive? Can we just have a conservative party? We're no progressive here. We're just going to conserve things that we like and remove things that we don't, like ridiculous gender ideology. Here is Doug Ford, who is also not a conservative, and it's good to be aware. It's good to be aware of these things being snuck in where they shouldn't be, right? Doug Ford is spending $1 billion of your money, of my money, on DEI initiatives and race ideology in schools. Catherine Cronus is the one highlighting this. And Juno News says Ontario spends nearly $500 million to push DEI and race ideology in schools. Under Premier Doug Ford's watch, Ontario has quietly poured nearly $500 million into reshaping its schools around a DEI agenda and pushing race-based ideology onto students. Yep. And I left schools in 2015 because it was getting way too woke nonsense. You couldn't be in a school and be safe if you were going to tell kids to stop doing anything, right? Like, go to class because it's in the middle of class and you're in the hallway messing around, right? Like, oof, you could get in trouble for that. The administration, well, I won't bore you with the details, but it wasn't worth being in the school after 2015, right? So it is absolutely unbelievable how much more money they've spent on this stuff. Under Premier Doug Ford's watch, Ontario has quietly poured nearly $500 million into reshaping its schools around a DEI agenda and pushing race-based ideology onto students. Since Ontario launched its equity education overhaul in 2017, programs rooted in Marxist-inspired critical race theory and other DEI-rooted practices have been embedded throughout the public education system. Government memoranda show that since 2017, hundreds of millions have flowed through special funds like the Priorities and Partnership Fund and its successor, the Responsive Education Programs. The true total may be higher once administrative and professional development costs are included. This is Juno News, by the way. This isn't this isn't my website, or it's at a higher level. I would say Rebel and Juno News are like B-class media, almost mainstream, but not quite mainstream, right? So the fact that they're reporting on this is eyebrow raising, right? It's interesting. Teachers training delivered under these mandates often describe education as a form of social transformation and urge staff to challenge, quote, white supremacy culture in curriculum and assessment. Collectively, these programs reveal a consistent pattern of spending tied to the province's anti-racism and decolonization agenda, language closely aligned with far-left political theories rather than traditional academic goals. The province's Educational Equity Secretariat, created in 2017 to lead what officials described as a synthetic transformation, was backed by an initial commitment of over $7 million to implement the Education Equity Action Plan. That funding launched pilot projects and board-level equity networks designed to embed culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, education jargon for critical race theory, across Ontario schools. So they couldn't call it critical race theory, so they came up with this culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy. Bullshit, and that's all it is. By 24-25, the Ministry of Education was spending roughly $30 million per year on related equity-based programs. These include training teachers in anti-oppressive and culturally relevant pedagogy, subsidizing board-level human rights and equity advisors, and supporting de-streamed grade 9 classrooms designed to eliminate what ministry calls systemic bias in academic placement. The government has also created specialized funding streams based on race and identity. The Graduation Coach Program for Black students, launched as a small pilot in 2019, has grown to $5.47 million annually. The program places staff hired for their lived experience to mentor Black students and, quote, dismantle systemic barriers. Absolute nonsense. What a waste. Similar programs have been developed for Indigenous students, including Indigenous graduation coach programs and the Rapid Response Northern School Team, together costing nearly $9 million in 24-25. In addition to those targeted grants, the Indigenous Education Grant within Ontario's core school funding has expanded to over $100 million today. The grant funds Indigenous languages, land-based learning, and cultural programming. New programs such as the $3.14 million Indigenous Languages Revitalization Fund and the $4.8 million Indigenous Graduation Coach Program further add to the total. Spending millions of dollars on a language revitalization fund, I don't think is very effective, especially in a public school, because I went through the public school in Ontario, Canada, for the mid 80s to 2000, 1999. And I went to French class and I didn't learn French. I learned some basic, I think I learned less French than spending a week in Montreal would have taught me, right? Like I learned how to say certain vocabulary words. I learned how to conjugate a verb, kind of, but not really. Like conjugate it on paper, but I can't use that in conversation. I never understood how to use the conjugation of verbs in conversation until I was an adult. So, and not because, just in French, right? Like, but that's a poor delivery of an education model. Like if you can't actually teach the children French when you see them for 200 odd days a year, then you shouldn't deliver that program. That program is crap. Right? And it's crap. I'm sorry, it's crap. And nobody respected the French teacher. Like, honestly, nobody respected the French teacher. And the French teacher didn't demand respect. So it was one of those things most of the time. Sometimes they did, but very rarely. So wasting money to bring back Indigenous languages, it's a waste of money. Like, it's a waste of money. I'm sorry, it's just a massive waste of money. Back to this. De-streaming grade 9, another policy rooted in the 2017 plan, received $3 million annually for culturally responsive teaching support. Boards are required to provide training and resources tied to the racial and other identities of students, meaning sexual identities of students. The language in government memos explicitly directs teachers to use anti-racist and anti-colonial policy theory and activism in their classrooms. Taken together, these programs represent a sweeping realignment of Ontario's education system around equity ideology. Between the launch of the Education Equity Action Plan and the 24-25 school year, the province will have spent approximately $445 million on equity-driven programs, a figure projected to exceed $500 million by 2026 as ongoing initiatives continue. Despite the scale of the investment, the programs remain largely hidden from public scrutiny. The funding details are buried within technical memoranda issued to school boards each year, not easily accessible to the public. No province-wide evaluations have been released demonstrating whether these identity-based interventions have improved student outcomes. They haven't. True North contacted the ministry about the total spent on equity-based and identity-focused education programs since 2017 and whether these initiatives align with the Ford government's Back to Basics education agenda, given their grounding in critical race theory and cultural responsive pedagogy, and whether race-exclusive programs were consistent with public education's commitment to neutrality and equality. The ministry did not respond, and they never do. They never, ever do, because they are captured. The Institute is captured. They are not working for Canadians. I think they work for whatever entity has captured the institution. And that might be China. That might be the Marxist ideology, gender ideology. All of that stuff just might be downstream from China, right? Trying to destabilize. But it might be something else too. I don't know. I don't know who necessarily, but I definitely know when I'm being lied to. And whenever I look at our government, that's the feeling I get. And they want to silence us. So let's talk about free speech. Andrew Lawton is effectively, or maybe effectively, fighting this. He's trying real hard, so I appreciate that. Andrew Lawton says, Bill C2, border bill that bans large cash transactions and allows warrantless mail searches. Bill C8, cybersecurity bill that lets government force people offline without oversight. Bill C9, justice bill that lowers the threshold for hate. Can the Liberals do anything without trampling on our civil liberties? No, because the point is to remove our civil liberties, because if we continue to have the ability to criticize the Liberals, they would not remain in power, probably. Here is Andrew Lawton. This is 3 minutes. We're going to listen to all of it because it's worthwhile. He goes through Bill C8 or C9, one of the two, maybe both, and talks about how the Liberals are trying to crack down on free speech. And I think he makes a lot of good points, so we'll spend the time.
The word extreme does not appear in Bill C9. Now, the government is very proud of this bill. The government has had all summer to work on it. They have had, I don't know how many stakeholders, staffers, bureaucrats, lawmakers, and lawyers look over it with every, I imagine, every clause with a fine-tooth comb. Omitting a word, an operative word, a very key word in a very key section of this bill is no accident. The government is, to use a legal term, willfully lowering the threshold on what constitutes hate, by extension expanding the state's power and lowering the threshold of what can be regarded as free expression in this country. Now, why this is so important to me and to the Canadians who have been speaking out about Bill C9 to this point, Madam Speaker, is because this government has been, to its credit, very transparent on where it wants to go. on free expression. We do not need to look far to see what happens when the threshold for hate is lowered. In the United Kingdom, police are not even rarely knocking on doors and arresting people over mean tweets. Because the same desire that we're seeing behind some of the negative and concerning impulses in C9 is criminalizing hate based on the grounds that words are violence. Censors justify their limitations on freedom of expression by elevating speech to violence. It is not for the state to discern, let alone prosecute, hate that may exist in one's heart. The law is to punish action, and the existing laws already do this. Now, I'd be remiss to not point out that the Liberals only get tough on crime when they're talking about thought criminals. These are the only people that the Liberals want to put behind bars. I do not trust those who caused the problem to solve it. And I think all people who may agree with the motivation behind this bill should be very cautious to hand over this level of power to the Liberals when they have already demonstrated where they want to go. I'll return to another quote by former Chief Justice McLaughlin. It is not to say that it is always illegitimate for governments to curtail expression, but government attempts to do so must be viewed with suspicion. This Liberal government does not deserve the benefit of the doubt on hate. It does not deserve the benefit of the doubt on protecting charter liberties. It does not deserve the benefit of the doubt on any of the problems that it has been instrumental in either allowing to fester or in some cases outright cause.
There you go. And yeah, he makes a lot of good points. There are a lot of things that are happening right now, and this government does not have the credibility or the track record for us to give them the benefit of the doubt on it. And so it's important. And we are in a situation where they're trying to remove freedoms that have been long-standing and part of our country for, well, as long as I've been alive anyway. If they take this away from us, it is removed from our children. It will be hard to restore it. Here is Maxime Bernier. He says, we say no to Bill C-8, no to giving a politician the power to cut off our internet access and silence us without warrants and without a trial. Here we go.
Number that should send a chill down your spine. 8. Bill C-8. The Liberals are trying to set it as a cybersecurity bill. Don't believe them. This bill is a digital guillotine. It gives a single politician in Ottawa the power to cut off your internet with a stroke of a pen, without a warrant, without a trial, without even telling you why. They can disconnect you, and then they can gag you from even talking about it. This bill is about granting the state unprecedented authority to silence critics and control access to information. They say it's for hackers, but what about a journalist who asks tough questions? What about a protester they want to silence? What about you if you dare to criticize them? This is not just about cybersecurity, it's about control. Our internet is our voice, our liberty. Let's fight together for our freedom.
Right. And so at least some political parties are talking about it, right? At least some people are coming out against this. Conservative now PPC, and that's good. Will we be able to stand up against it? I don't know. One of the things, the implications of having this crackdown on free speech is that you are not allowed to question the narrative, the lie, of the residential schools as ethnic cleansing or as murderous places of child murder and mass graves and all sorts of stuff. These assertions have been put forward without evidence, and people who ask for evidence are now called deniers. And I wonder and I worry that if you put this idea forward, and if you say these people have said this, but they have not proven it, if you do that, will you get put in jail? Here's Billboard Chris, and he says the greatest hoax in Canadian history. He's responding to Dallas Brody, who created a documentary, and 1BC is promoting this documentary, and that's great. He says the greatest hoax in Canadian history. No Indigenous graves, child graves, have been discovered, yet more than 100 Christian churches have burned to the ground in retaliation, and billions of dollars have been paid to Indigenous communities for reconciliation. Quote, reconciliation. Right? Is this reconciliation? I don't really think so. Here, Frances Widdowson. She's talking to Dallas Brody. I wonder if they will target people like this when they say things like this. They say, follow the money. The money is telling a story of incentivization for this narrative, for this lie, and it is a lie. Here's Francis Widdowson.
They don't want to dig in Kamloops because if you begin to challenge the testimony and the stories of the knowledge keepers, it's going to throw a whole bunch of other Aboriginal industry initiatives into question. So you have the immediate thing, which was $12.1 million given to the Kamloops Band, $320 million given to bands across the country for what's called unmarked grave searches. It's about this group of neo-tribal elites in association with the Aboriginal industry who are raking off billions of dollars, living privileged lives, but the public needs to know the absolute destruction that's going on in the hands of these activists, which is connected to the Kamloops unmarked grave or the Kamloops mass grave deception.
So there you go. Makingakilling.ca is information there. Will the government move to take down that website if they don't like the things that the website says? Is that not a contravention of our freedom of expression, freedom of speech? If they say that's hate speech, how can they prove it? Right? And so it's one of those things, man. It's not hateful. It's just factual. That man can't be a woman, right? Jeepers creepers. We got to kill the stream soon. I just want to show you one or two more and then we'll kill the stream. Lisa says, this is exactly what people are tired of. Apparently the city of Pickering posted this on Facebook. I looked on X and I couldn't find it on X, but on Facebook, they've posted, I'm sure it's Facebook. It looks like Facebook. City of Pickering says today is International Pronouns Day. Skeptical eyebrows. This is a hate face. This face here with my skeptical eyebrows about pronoun day. The Canadian government will say this is a hateful. Responding this way is hateful. You can't. How dare you have a visceral reaction like that, Mark? You marshal your feelings and you don't allow your face to communicate how skeptical you are about International Pronouns Day. Bullshit. Oh, that's a hate speech right there. International Pronouns Day is recognized annually on the third Wednesday of October. No. It's like Kwanzaa and Juneteenth. These are things that bullshit. And the fruit of the loom cornucopia, that existed. These things did not exist. Okay? Nope. For sure, definitely not. This is less legitimate than like Friends Day or Popcorn Day or Black Labrador Day, right? Like this is absolute nonsense dressed up as something that a municipality shouldn't be posting about. Like, is this pothole filling day, City of Pickering? Like, because get on it. Other than that, I don't want to hear from you, right? Like, give it a rest, right? Holy smokeronies. I don't even want to say. Recognizing the pronouns individuals determine for themselves is a basic human dignity. You can call me my lord. Thank you very much. That's my pronoun. Give me a friggin' break. City of Pickering is saying this with being serious. Mocha was assaulted at he was out doing a town hall. He was recording the town hall. He says, yesterday in the village of Empress, Alberta, a blatant assault took place on our charter rights. I was physically interfered with while recording the municipal election candidates debate at the Empress Community Hall, simply because someone claimed to be the hall's boss. Didn't like a report I published last year about the unaccounted millions of dollars in taxpayer revenue missing from the village's financial statements. Full story coming tonight. So this guy says we had a vote and we all decided that you're not allowed to record here. And you can't just like indiscriminately vote away somebody's basic charter rights. Like freedom of the press is a thing. We all have basic rights. You can't just remove somebody from a public community meeting about a candidates debate because you don't like them. But that's exactly what they tried to do to Mocha. Here we go.
Recording without the vote? Yes.
He says you're recording without the vote, and he tries to remove the camera.
Recording without the vote?
Yes. Don't touch my camera. Don't touch my camera. Move. Don't touch my camera. Move right now. Get back.
We don't need to shut up. Would you give him the same treatment? Would you? Yes or no?
Maybe we wouldn't.
Well, then, why are you giving it to him? You're being biased here.
I put it to vote, people answered.
It's not about a vote. Sure it is. No, it's not. Sure. You can't take away the right to the press.
Who wants to speak?
Do you not defend our charter? What's wrong with you?
No, I got it. No,
Everybody voted.
I got your message. Recording without the vote.
Getting heated. Getting heated. So with that, we're going to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the rest of the show, you can head over to CanadaPoly.com. If not, that's okay.